What just happened? I don't know the answer to that. That was an absolutely ridiculous evening. Everything that was involved with that game was preposterous. So let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, July 26th, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to a 100 times payout of your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Okay. 7-6 loss to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I don't even know where to start. I have to make this itinerary now if you're watching on YouTube. So I guess we'll kind of just follow that. But even that was just kind of like word vomit. That there was no specific order or rhyme or reason. I don't know where to begin. Every single aspect of this game, from the viewership to the last out that was made, was absolutely mythical. That was one of the most ridiculous evenings of baseball I have ever been a part of, ever. And like, it's a loss in July in a season that we're gonna finish under 500 in. But like, I don't I don't know, dog. I don't know. I've been having a hard time even formulating thoughts. I guess we can start with the broadcast. If you missed this game, so did everybody else for the first 3 innings. The first 7 innings? Well, no, we have to even break it down. So the game's about to start. They do Tigers Live. They do the pregame show, pick the stick, all that stuff, Bally. And then the commercial break, and it's like after the commercial break, the Tigers game is about to start. They come back, and it's poker. And like usually poker is what's played after like the post-game show is done when like all the Pistons and Tigers and Red Wings games are over. I was like, what is happening? Then technical difficulties flashed across the screen, and it sounded like a cup phone. You know, like when you were a kid and you would take 2 cups and tie a string in the middle and like talk to each other, and you're like, oh my goodness. And that's how like they taught you science and how vibrations worked in like elementary school. That's what it sounded like Dan Petrie and Matt Shepard were talking through. They were like underwater. And there was no picture. And then in the 3rd inning, we got picture back, but it was one camera in center field and the audio was still awful. And then in the 7th inning, I think it was the 7th, we got our full broadcast back. So we already have a ridiculous start to the game. There's very little StatCast data. The only StatCast data we have is like the very end of the ball game. So we don't have our usual what percentage of pitch was thrown and swings and miss number exactly and all that. No, we actually, I was going to say I watched. So like I have a general idea, but even then, I only watched like the last inning and a third of Erod's outing. I guess I don't know. I don't know what he was offering in the first 2 innings. I don't know. I didn't see it. No one did. So I mean, a wild game to break down already from that aspect. Then you have the performance on the field from both teams being laughable. And like, this is just so on brand for both of these franchises right now, right? The Tigers have just been in a pit of misery for the last 6 years. They've spent a lot of 7-year stretch just like finding ways to lose baseball games. They've given you hope. They've taken away hope. It's certainly on brand for us. If you ask any Angels fan if this performance was on brand, they would laugh in your face and say this is the brand. This has been also very much Angels baseball for the last 7 years. These two teams are tied for the longest active playoff drought in Major League Baseball. 2014, these two tied for first. Like, this is just so unbelievably on brand Angels versus Tigers baseball game. I can't even really articulate. Just preposterous. So we have the broadcast to start out. I also want to mention like how important this series is to the Los Angeles Angels. This is like they are treating the next 6 games like it's the World Series. I want you to tap into Angels Twitter or whatever platform you use, however you get, your news. Go look up some Angels fans. It is do or die for this organization. If they go on a skid, they're going to have to trade one of the most talented players to ever step foot on any athletics facility ever and trade off some of their other pieces. And if they win, they're already on a little bit of a heater. I think they're 7-2 in their last 9. If they keep winning leading up to the break, then they're going to buy. They're going to be in the wild card hunt. I don't think there's any team in baseball, and I say this legitimately, that has more weight on their shoulders over the next week than the Los Angeles Angels. So, like, you have all of this pressure mounting and this game that's already, from even a third-party perspective, very meaningful, and then no one can watch the first 3 innings. And there's no data. You can barely hear what's happening. And then you come back, the Tigers are down 2-0. And then that transitions us into Eduardo Rodriguez. I mean, just straight up, I can't imagine that what he did in the first couple of innings when we couldn't see was much different than the last 2.5 innings that we did see of his outing. He just straight up wasn't very good. There's really no other way around it. He ends up going 4 2/3, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. I mean, so I'm going to be honest with you. That's some of I don't like using the word worst because, like, these are even at their worst. These are still the best baseball players, breathing. But comparatively to what we are used to from Eduardo Rodriguez, I mean, that is objectively some of the worst stuff we have seen from him all calendar season. Very little of anything was moving. And he doesn't have the velocity to blow past people when his stuff isn't moving. So rough. Again, I don't have all the normal numbers I have, but like, I mean, you didn't need him. That was a really rough performance. And then also the biggest aspect of Eduardo Rodriguez's game on the mound is the command. And he just peppers you on the black, right? Everything is just a borderline strike or a ball, and opposing fan bases hate him, right? Like, it's one of those things because he's going to get some calls going his way, and he's going to get some calls that don't go his way because he's just going to be around the strike zone pretty much exclusively when he is on. In this game, not the case. There was very little movement, and everything was either the heart of the plate or well out of the strike zone. His changeup, he could not locate for anything in this ball game. I legitimately, every single changeup he threw was just a waste pitch. Every single one it just bounced like in the dirt. Like, that's how far off it was command-wise. Obviously, the 3 walks off brand for him, right? This is definitely the outlier, but couldn't find the zone. A rarity for him. The 3 strikeouts in 4 2/3, I guess that's about on brand. That's about as much as we normally get, but just wasn't missing bats, wasn't peppering the corners like he usually does, wasn't getting too many called strikes. That's kind of where he lives. Just he was off. He was just off, man. There isn't really any big reason why, but I mean, with that, like that's potentially his last start as a Tiger. So we'll talk about the impact of this outing after I tell y'all about our friends over at Sleeper. There it is. Over at Sleeper, if you want the chance to win more money with less picks, head to Sleeper where you can win up to 100 times your money in just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. I mean, obviously, Otani's always a fun one to look at. If you took the more on the amount of walks he would have, I would imagine you made out pretty well in this daily fantasy 24-hour period. But I mean, if you want to win 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball, Sleeper is now offering up to a 100 times payout for up to 8 pick contests. Choose as many as 8 players you like and pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right and you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONMLB and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, even after a ridiculous evening of baseball like Tuesday night was. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow recapping Game 2 here. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. And if you want the radio broadcast, because the TV broadcast isn't working, just download the SiriusXM app, search Detroit Tigers. You can get the home broadcast anytime, anywhere. So the impact of this start, I actually, a little bit of a cliffhanger there to, draw you in. Maybe a, what do they call that? Clickbait? Little clickbaity draw there. I actually don't think that this is like detrimental to his value. I just have a really hard time believing that anybody's going to look over the body of work, even what he's done since coming back, really. I mean, I know like his first 2 starts weren't the best thing in the world, but like the second start was better than the first, and last start was like very, very solid. 7 innings of 2-run ball. I have a really hard time believing anyone's going to just be like, no, we're going to substantially lower our offer because of one outing against the Angels. So there's a chance that this is his last start, though, and it's important. It's important to note that I believe he is scheduled to start the last game before the trade deadline. I think it's either the last game before the trade deadline or the game literally on the 1st of August. But I think it's the last one before. And it's hard just because like I can count how many days out it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Like that would be Miami, but it's weird just with the off day in there, with the fact that he might get traded, and with the fact that this team does not always stick to a true 5-man, and we mix and match all the time and call people up and send people down and whatnot. So he might have one left in him, but there's a real chance that this was the last time we see Erod in an Old English D. So yeah, I don't think it was too terribly detrimental though. Moving on to the rest of the game, because we still got a lot to talk about here. Man, I'm like exhausted. This team is really just, they are the CEOs of false hope so often. And like part of it throughout the entire course of the season is just the Twins' fault, right? Like they just refuse to go on a run and just take a wide open division. So like in that regard, it's not really their fault. Like they're almost 10 games under 500. It's more the division's fault. But like there are so many games where they do this. They score. It just happened a week ago with the Royals. Like they do this all the time. They'll have some weird comeback or they'll send it to extras. And then, I mean, I can't even tell you. I can think of at least 2, maybe 3 times this season when we have not scored the Manfred runner in extras. That's got to be one of the most embarrassing things ever. Let's stay in order, though. I want to stay in order the itinerary there. We have 10th inning later. Let's talk about the offense as a whole. I thought for the first 8 innings, this was a pathetic offensive performance. Jake Rogers hit a homer. That was great. And Riley Greene is one of the best players to wear a Tigers uniform in years, in a lot of years, I would say, at that. So you have that going for you. Matt Vierling had a couple of hits, I guess. But like top to bottom, if you remove Riley Greene, I mean, genuinely, this was a pretty pathetic offensive performance. The first, 5 innings? How many strikeouts did Canning end with? 5 innings, 7 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 8 strikeouts for Griffin Canning. He had a great performance, well, a lot of strikeouts, performance against the Yankees in his last start. But this is a dude with an ERA of almost 4.5. Absolutely just diced you for 8 innings. Jake Rogers got a hold of one. Just no life. Zero life. 4 for 12, I want to say, with RISP in this game. That's a 300 average. We'll take that over the course of the season. Still means you failed, 8 times with runners in scoring position, but we'll take that. I'm not going to complain too terribly much about the clutch hitting, but for the first 7 innings of this ball game, you barely even had those opportunities. And you failed a lot in those. And a lot of those hits with RISP came at the end of the ball game. Just no life, no energy whatsoever. Javi Baez, 1 for 5. RBI single, fastball very late on it, ground ball, but gets through the infield the other way. Akil Baddoo is someone I want to talk about as well. Akil Baddoo, since the start of June, since June 1st, has an 0.91 batting average, a 191 on base percentage, a 164 slug. That is a 354 OPS in his last 18 games, which is, again, since June 1st. Now, he did get hurt after June 9th and did not come back until July 7th. But since July 7th, his batting average is very low. It's over 100, but it's sub 150. Since his pretty solid May, he has just accomplished very little at the plate. He's been very, very unproductive, unfortunately. And this dude has a very high walk rate over the course of the season. He hasn't been walking too terribly much over the last couple of weeks. And that's where I love Akil Baddoo. That's where a lot of the hitting value he has comes from, his working counts, drawing a lot of walks. So when he's already not getting hits, not barreling up baseballs, and now not drawing walks, that's a red flag. But you can really go down the list, man. I'm not trying to just pick on any one person. Again, outside of Spencer Torkelson, 1 for 5 with 2 RBIs. I can't believe they counted that as a hit. Baseball scoring is wild these days. And look, he crushed that ball. It was 402 feet. But it was a home run in 1 of 30 parks to dead center field. Obviously, if he pulled it 400 feet, it would have been way gone and they would have won the game. I don't know. I wasn't blown away. He fouled off a lot of fastballs right down the middle in the at-bats I did see as well. Just a game-to-game basis of inconsistency with really everybody. That's not even just a Torkelson thing. McKinstry, 1 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. I want you to take a wild guess where all 4 final pitches of all 4 of those strikeouts were. Right. So, yeah, I mean, as a whole, offensively, I don't think that, I mean, they ended the game with 6 runs because of the rally. But if you just look at the runs, the amount of runs they have scored since the All-Star break, 5, 6, 0, 3, 10 in that ridiculous game to Kansas City, 3, 3, 4, 3, 3, 5, and now 6. It's not an unbelievably juiced and impressive offense. And most of their offensive stats are still toward the bottom of the league. Game to game. This team is also, a lot of people have pointed this out at this point. Chris Brown of Motor City Metrics and Mark Gorosh have both pointed out a lot that this team just refuses to win 3 games in a row. It's been since the first week of May that we've gone on a 3-game winning streak. So we talk about how ridiculous this ball game is and all that. And then they'll go out tomorrow and Lorenzen against a former team might look decent. They might scrap together a victory. They might even win by a couple of runs, pretty comfortable victory. They just refuse to do it. They refuse to win 3 games straight. Just one of many long list of reasons as to why we'll be selling in a week. Okay, let's keep the ball rolling. I want to talk about the bullpen management, and then I want to talk about the 10th inning. That's really the meat and potatoes of this game. Anyways, we'll do that right after I tell y'all about our friends over at Margs Sparkling Margaritas. This episode is brought to you by Margs. Look, you guys know I love a good drink, and I've been trying to find the replacement to the typical White Claws and High Noons of the world. Thank goodness I stumbled upon Margs. They're refreshing, ready-to-drink sparkling margaritas have officially become my go-to cocktail. They have real Blanco tequila. They are clean, crisp, and they genuinely taste so good. They've got 5 unique flavors, so there's something for everyone to enjoy. I love these the most when I'm kicking back after work, watching a game, just hanging out with friends. This summer, I have been packing my cooler full of Margs wherever I go. Barbecues, boat trips, days at the beach, etc. And I will continue to do so for the rest of the summer. So visit sipmargs.com to find a retailer near you. That's SIPMARGS.com to find a retailer near you. Must be 21 or over to enjoy. Cheers, and please drink responsibly. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Wow, I just feel like my energy is low in this ball game. It was a long day as is for yours truly, and then on top of that, just sucked the life out of me. This game did. I was laughing for the first 3 innings. I thought I feel really bad for Bally and the crew there. They got some really cool people on the Bally Sports crew that do a fantastic job. But that was just objectively a bleep show, and I couldn't help but giggle a little bit. Let's talk about the bullpen in this ball game. So, Chase and Shreve, will save him for last. Eduardo Rodriguez starts. Bo Brisky, 1 in the third, 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 strikeout. I thought that he was pretty solid, and he's been another person that's been pretty inconsistent on the bump. He'll go out there and he'll have a couple of really solid outings where you're like, oh, this bullpen thing's working out pretty well. And then he'll go out there and have a couple outings in a row where he'll get hit decently hard. But it's really, for me, it's all about finding something that moves horizontally, dog. We've talked about this a lot, but he's got a really lively fastball ever since moving to the pen. That thing's pushing upper 90s now. His changeup has always been a plus pitch. But until he gets something that moves side to side, it's just, I don't know about the long-term success of it, but looked really good in this one and tunneled it really well. And I was very pleased with it. Brennan White, 2 innings, no hits, perfect ball, 1 strikeout. Really nice to see him get a couple of innings of really effective ball. There's that slider was still finding the heart of the plate a couple of times, but no damage done. So we're going to take what we can get there. He is back, by the way, because of a IL stint by Mason Englert after his rough outing last time out. He got moved to the IL, and Brennan White just came right back. So that is why he is back in the club. And then Alex Lang gets 1 inning, 1 hit, 1 run. It's not earned because it was the Manfred runner, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. He's throwing the ball all over the place. The Angels are a pretty free swinging team. They have quite a few guys that have pretty low walk rates. So I think they kind of bailed him out there. But yeah, even that inning, obviously better than a lot of outings he's given us, but still, even then, man, he was all over the place. All over the place. Jake Rogers had a very exhausting night, I would imagine, behind the plate. And a lot of that has to do with just the 10th inning. Let's talk about Chase and Shreve. 1 inning, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 1 strikeout. A lot of people are all on AJ's case today. We'll talk about the 10th inning, the decision, the pinch hit Eric Haas there in a second, obviously. But as far as the bullpen management goes, that was, and again, I'm not afraid to critique the bullpen management. I just really laid into them during the Padres series about how much I disagreed with it. This one, you're kind of just between a rock and a hard place. Foley's pitched a lot lately. Jose Cisnero, they said, was unavailable for the game for the same reason. I guess you could have gone to Alex Lang there, but no, you're not, because they were losing. So it's just a situation that's not exactly the most high leverage. Obviously, the comeback happens. The Tigers end up putting up 4 runs. But you can't just use your highest leverage relievers every single ninth inning, no matter what the score is. That's not feasible. So you have to go to somebody other than Lang and Foley. Holton just pitched yesterday as well. And again, that's more of a high leverage guy. If we have a lead tomorrow, you're going to be glad we didn't pitch him today. So like it was a really tough situation. Shreve, now his ERA is up to a 4.82. He had a really awful April, then a really solid May and June, and then his July has been not as bad as his April, but certainly nowhere near as good as his May and June. So he's just kind of regressing back to, I don't know, the norm, I guess, whatever the norm for Chase and Shreve is these days. But yeah, I wasn't too upset in a vacuum with that decision like some other people were. But let's talk about, I mean, he wasn't very good though. Don't get me wrong. I mean, yeah, it was not effective. I thought the only at bat he actually pitched really well to was the Ohtani at bat. I thought he had a couple of really good change or splitters, whatever that is, in that AB. Outside of that, he was kind of all over the place and just really hanging pretty slow pitches really everywhere. Let's talk about the 10th. So the 10th inning, you have a ridiculous top half with, Lang on the mound already. Jake Rogers does have a pass ball, which like that has been a weird thing where he's not getting it like through the 5-hole, but like just off the end of the glove. Like he's had several pass balls over the last week, which is a problem and something that I really want to see tightened up. That being said, I mean, he might be, him or Riley Greene, I guess, might be the MVP of this ball game. I mean, he was phenomenal. He was all over the place offensively. 2 more hits, one of them a homer. Had a great block from a ball that one of the million balls that was in the dirt from Lang, and then throws out Mickey Moniak over at third as well. He definitely made his presence known. Was framed a good game as well, I thought. But so you have all that going on. You have the throw out at third. Then you get to the bottom half of the inning. You're the home team down a run in extras. Okay, you have the Manfred runner on second. And the batters due up are Javi Baez, Akil Baddoo, Nick Maton, right? So, no, that's not right. It was, well, yeah, and then they pinch hit Maton for Haas. That is right. So, Javi goes up, first pitch swinging, pull side, not even close to deep enough in the hole to have Veerling advance, even though he's a good runner. Not great. Okay. So bad at bat. We're used to that. Okay. We move on. Embarrassing at bat. Very not good presence, et cetera, et cetera. Approach. Yes, it's all true. Okay. We got it all out of our system. We don't have to spend half an hour talking about it. Yes. Bad. Next. Andy Ibanez pinch hits. I don't mind the pinch hitting for Andy Ibanez. Zach Short, or Akil Baddoo, rather. Goodness, this box score. My box score is impossible to read with all the subs. This is a classic AJ Hinch game. My fault. So Ibanez pinch hits for Baddoo. They bring a lefty out there. You have to do it. I'm totally fine with it. Ibanez has shown the ability to get some hits at times. He's a very streaky hitter. We know what he is. Don't have an issue with that. Then we get to Nick Maton, who's obviously not going to face a lefty. You have Miguel Cabrera and Eric Haas both on your bench. You choose Eric Haas. I love Eric Haas. I love Eric Haas as a human being. I think he's a great dude. I think he's a great story. I hope that fans, when his era here is over, that they will look back on it fondly, because the first 2 years of it was a fantastic, awesome, cool story, and he provided a lot of cool moments. There is no way you will ever convince me that that was the right call in this situation. And someone asked, to whoever asked the question, to their credit, someone asked AJ Hinch in the post game about that decision, and his reasoning was for defensive purposes. His reasoning was they wanted to go to Haas there because they don't want Miggy running the bases and they don't want Miggy in the field. So if they did go Ibanez, then they would have had to make 2 subs for 1 sub. Okay. Whereas Eric Haas, they can rearrange some stuff and keep him in the field. I understand that logic. I don't care. I just don't care in that situation. Miguel Cabrera is objectively a significantly better hitter than Eric Haas in any capacity. Career, not even close, obviously. But in 2023, Eric Haas has legitimately been, again, unfortunately, one of the Cabrera has an OPS in like the 800s since the end of May. There's no power anymore, but he'll draw some walks and he will get a lot of singles still. I don't care. You have to get there. That's like in a World Series game being like, "Oh, well, we're not going to go to our highest leverage reliever in the highest leverage situation because we might want to save him." Save him for what? I'm sorry, but you're putting up, again, literally one of the worst hitters in the entire sport. That does not give you the best chance to win this ball game. Oh my goodness. I adamantly disagree with that decision. So there you go. There's the ridiculous 10th inning. Haas strikes out. The Tigers not even don't score the Manfred runner. They don't even advance him to third. Verling just stood at second. Everything about this game was ridiculous. Tomorrow, they're back at it. 6:40 start time. Michael Lorenzen, revenge game. Hopefully he does well. I think this is his last start as a Tiger. I would be very shocked if he had another one after this. I guess they might be able to move something around and get him one like on the first. I don't even know what time we play on the first. I guess I can check that really quickly. We play at 7, so no. This is Michael Lorenzen's probably his last start as a Tiger, unless they started him on the 26th and the 30th. So we'll see what happens against the former team. Goodness gravy. Sorry for the. I feel like this was really low energy, but this was one of the other big things, and we'll end on this. One of the other big reasons why this is not like red in the face angry. It was a frustrating game, don't get me wrong. And I hate false hope games. I hate coming back and then just like for nothing. Good fight at the end, though, objectively. That's a good trait to have. Not going to complain about it, but annoying. I think a lot of people are still very caught up on results for this team. And again, the bad division is one of the biggest reasons that a lot of people have cared about results as long as they have for this team. I mean, I've made very clear on here, I haven't been there in a minute. I haven't been getting hung up on specific wins and losses. Obviously, if it's a bad game, I get frustrated. But in terms of like, this was a loss, I'm going to be like significantly upset because we lost this on Tuesday, July 25th. This team's probably going to be 10 games or worse on under 500 for a while here. And we're about to trade 2 of our best players away at least. The Angels are playing for everything. Pretty sloppy game by them too, to be fair though. All right, that'll do it. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow recapping game 2 of the Angels series, hopefully with a little more energy on my part. Like I said, I apologize. It's a grind for everybody watching this team. Golly. All right, peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.